Hey guys, it's Susan Jones. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a little bit of a different video for you. I wanted to share what I hope is relatable and not just embarrassing, but my worst teacher interview ever. Actually, it's just my worst interview ever. It was so horrible. I would like to say that generally I'm a pretty good interviewer, and actually before this interview I had gotten every single job that I'd ever applied for, like all the way back to high school. So, you know, things are bound to happen. So I'm going to share with you just how that interview went, and hopefully you can get some tips on what not to do during your interview. So here we go. I got my hair in a messy bun and we are just gonna chat. I do feel like I should have a warning to like future employers of mine that the events you're about to hear are not an accurate description or portrayal of my normal interview skills. So I just want to put that out there. So this interview was a few years ago. It was the summertime, I think around July, and I wasn't actually looking for a new job. I was actually 7 months pregnant, and I had already had it set up that I was going to go on maternity leave at the end of September. The only downside was my husband and I were planning on moving, and my new house was going to be about an hour drive to the school. So that was in the back of my mind, but I really wasn't going to start thinking about that until, you know, I had had Theo, my firstborn son, and we could kind of see if that travel time was going to be a problem. So yeah, it was a job that kind of popped up out of nowhere, and it was in the city where we were planning on buying our house. So I was like, oh, there's a new job in that exact city. It's only like 4 minutes away from my house. I think the hours you got out at like 1:30 or something, and I was trying to think, you know, since I'm 7 months pregnant and I was gonna have a newborn at home, that might be nice to be able to get home a little earlier and spend more time with my son. So I kind of just threw in an application, said let's see what happens. They contacted me pretty quickly, so I got really excited, although I was still nervous because again, I'm 7 months pregnant, so I couldn't imagine showing up to an interview like literally really, really large. I'll insert a picture here of what I looked like at that point. But when I got contacted, they said it was going to be for a phone screen first, and I was like, oh, okay. So the phone screen, of course, is going to ask like basic questions, make sure I'm a real person, and then if they, you know, like me, if I pass, they'll call me over for an interview. So I'm not going to mention my pregnancy during the phone screen. I'll just wait until the interview, and then there's really not going to be any denying it, and we can talk about logistics if they come up. I was clearly already pretty confident. So like for any interview, I went and wrote down a bunch of different notes that I always do. I really looked into the school and tried to see what they were all about, make sure I wanted to work there before even going through with this. And I was very prepared. I felt great, like I had for most interviews. I did get a little like butterflies in my stomach, but mostly felt totally fine. They told me it was only going to be about 5 to 6 minutes. I was going to be talking with the principal and a couple of the other teachers there. So that morning comes and the phone rings. And I'm all nervous. I'm sitting at the kitchen table. I have my notes in front of me. I have some water and I'm ready to go. Right away, the principal introduced himself, and there were like 6 other people on the phone that he introduced. I was like, oh, that's a lot of people like listening to me. Okay. I think I got a little bit more nervous there. So after they introduced themselves, they wanted to know a little bit about me and my teaching history. Very easy. So I went ahead and started to answer. And it was during this first question that I think not having anybody to kind of look at and give me cues like, okay, you're done, I just started rambling, like non-stop rambling. And I was like, oh, well, my name is Susan Jones, and I start going through all my history, and then I'm sure they were writing things down. Like now in retrospect, I'm sure they were writing things down, but I didn't know, and all I could hear was silence, so I just kept talking. So much so that the principal actually cut me off during the very first question. That should have been an indicator about how things were gonna go. And I could feel my heart racing because I knew I was rambling and I knew I couldn't stop talking, but yet here I was. And then they asked me question number 2, why do you wanna work here? Like at their school. And there were so many reasons I wanted to work there. But the only thing that came to my head, because I was already nervous and flustered, and by the way, I had all the reasons written down on my paper right in front of me. Like I had all of them just so I don't forget. And for some reason I was looking at the paper and it might as well have been like gibberish. I was totally flustered and embarrassed. And I told them that I wanted to work there because it's right down the street from my house. I said I wanted to work there, which, you know, is not really a great reason. It doesn't show that I have any interest in their school. It shows that I'm much more about convenience. I told them that they get out at 1:40, so their hours. So I told them, yeah, you get out at 1:40 so I can come home with my babies. And then somebody had asked me, oh, you have children? And I was like, oh, well, not yet, but I'm 7 months pregnant now, ha, ha. Nervous laughter, crazy. And I could not get out anything. I couldn't, everything that was written on the paper, none of it came out. It was horrifying. And that was only question number 2. And so then I'm really nervous now, right? Like my chest is all red. I can feel, like I said, I'm totally flustered. I cannot think of a thing. Maybe we can say pregnancy brain had to do with it. I'm not sure, but it was so bad. So then I start standing up because I'm nervous. I'm starting to pace back and forth in my apartment, which is where I'm taking this phone interview. So I'm walking back and forth. They asked me a few other questions, and I honestly don't remember what I said. I think I gave a couple decent answers, but what I remember the most is I was panting. You see, I was so big and so pregnant that I totally lost my breath. So I'm literally walking around my apartment like trying to like breathe away from the phone because I can hear my own breath going in here. And after that like 3rd or 4th question, one of the other teachers was like, "Are you okay?" They literally asked me if I was okay because I was panting so heavily. I really just wanted to cry. It was so bad. And then the icing on top of the cake was one of like the very last questions that I think they asked me. They probably stopped it short. Honestly, it was literally like 5 questions they asked. And the last question they said was, what do you like about your current job? There were so many things I liked about my current job. I literally had them all listed. There was not one question, I should tell you, that I didn't already prepare for that they asked. They did not ask any out of the ballpark questions, like nothing weird, everything totally basic and normal, and I had great answers for every single one. So be prepared, but maybe not like be over prepared. I don't know, maybe that could be a tip. But their last question was, what do you like about your current job? And I totally froze and I was like, I need to find my paper. Where's my paper? Because I could not think of anything. My brain was gone. So I'm like walking around my room trying to buy time. I think I like repeated the question, like, what do I like about my current job? And meanwhile, I'm like panting. So I'm like looking for my paper and I can't find it. And you know what I said? The first thing that apparently popped into my head, I said, well, I have a full-time paraprofessional. And then I heard what had come out of my mouth. And I could not believe, I was disgusted with myself. I literally said, well, I have a full-time paraprofessional, and then I go, so that's cool. It was so bad. So bad. And I'm pretty sure that was the last question, and the principal was like, well, thank you for that. You know, we'll be in touch if we would like to schedule a further interview. Click. And it was done. The entire experience was like, I could see myself outside my body being like, what are you doing? Like, girl, get yourself together. And I could not. I couldn't. It was horrible. I remember afterwards Parker came home and he opened the door. He's like, oh, hey, how was your interview? And I was still like, it was so bad. And he was like, no, 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 no. I'm sure it was not that bad. Don't worry. You're exaggerating, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, let me just tell you how bad it was. And so I explained some of the answers I said. It was so embarrassing. So yeah, I shared this just so we can, you know, relate. And if you've had a really bad interview experience, please let me know and help me feel better. I've been on interview committees for like teachers coming into my schools, and I've seen bad interviews, but like my own was definitely far worse than anything I've seen. So yours doesn't need to be as bad as mine, but I don't know, maybe you can make me feel a little bit better. As always, if you liked this video, which you can go ahead and like that I'm sharing it. I don't know if you like that experience necessarily. Go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can see all my videos. See you guys later. Bye. Don't worry, I did redeem myself. I did get a few job offers, you know, years later with different interviews. Not there. They never called back, as they absolutely should not call back.